Hello, I am here to address how do you survive a toxic job? So many of you may think, well, I'm in a toxic job now. What do I do now? So I'm here to talk to you just for a little bit about how to survive a toxic job. So many of you have tuned in to the other conversations that I've had talking about Black women surviving or Black women healing from toxic jobs. And I am inspired to this video. It's very last minute, impromptu. I'm inspired to this video after watching recent videos from Stephanie Perry, also Adelia and Rashida Dow, and Ostefco. And they've just been talking about, just what are they calling in for their lives in terms of having a different experience and really recognizing that, they really want to live their best lives. And so part of living our best lives is to be in environments where we feel respected and affirmed. And I wanted to just come on for a little bit because, again, I've been doing videos over the past year talking about Black women and healing and different interviews. And I wanted to take a moment to just share in terms of my own healing journey. I've told bits and pieces, but I'm a very private person, so I haven't really talked that much about it. But I really want to do this. Now, again, I was inspired by the videos that I've seen, but also following or during a booking of a coaching client for my Black Women Healing from Toxic Jobs program. And she was expressing to me, and many Black women have reached out to me to express gratitude for me having these conversations, asking, why don't we have more of these conversations? I do want to just initially say I'm not the first Black woman to have these conversations. Dr. Kiri Yazid has started talking about it. She has a book about it, Shut 'em Down, Black Women, Racism in Corporate America. She was one of my guests last year. And also Minda Hart's Ready Within, How to Heal from Racial Trauma in the Workplace. So there are resources available to you. So it's not, it's not too many of us who could talk about it. We need to have these ongoing conversations so that we know that we're not alone. We know that we're not victims, we're victors, and we know that healing is possible and we have options. So I forgot to introduce myself. I got right into it. I'm Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist, and welcome to my channel, Lifting as We Climb Consulting, Wellness Services, where I focus on and I thrive, on really helping Black women heal and leave toxic jobs so that you can have a career, a profession where you are truly growing and feel affirmed and respected. So, again, this is a very impromptu conversation. So, what I decided to do today was to talk about the stages of grief in relation to a toxic job. And many times we can be a little confused about how can I experience grief in relation to a toxic job because we're just thinking, I want to leave this job. There's nothing good, right? But there is a grief process, and the grief process is sometimes based upon coming to the realization that some of the dreams that you may have had about the job are not going to be fulfilled or they haven't been fulfilled because many times we have a sense of enthusiasm when we start jobs and we find out that it's not really turning out to how we expected. It may also be where we might feel a sense of betrayal by those in the workplace whom we thought that we could trust, and maybe they betrayed us in some ways, or maybe they turned their backs on us. So the grief could be a lot of different things. It could even be that you may have formed some really good relationships with people at the job and coming to the realization that you're not going to have that type of relationship with them anymore. Okay. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over the 5 stages of grief. If you're in the mental health field, you have heard about the 5 stages of grief. So, I'm going to go over those, but I'm going to break it down into little bite sized nuggets in terms of sharing my own healing journey. Because, again, I started this YouTube channel because I want other Black women to know that you can survive a toxic job and you can thrive, right? But it's a healing journey. And so it's not easy. Anne-Marie Archer actually talked about that the trauma of being in these toxic workplaces, the trauma can be ongoing. So I'm not here to say that my healing is over. My healing is still ongoing. But this is part of my healing process is to be able to talk to Black women about these issues. So again, I'm going to break it down in terms of the 5 stages of grief. I'm going to take a break in between each because again, I'm talking about my own trauma. And so I want to model for you that, going through these stages, that we need to also take care of ourselves as we're going through these stages. So I'm going to pause, and do a break and then come back on to talk about the remaining stages of grief. So the first stage of grief is denial. So for me, the denial looked like really ignoring some of the signs that I was becoming aware of that this job was not good for me, that the job was harming me. And I ignored the signs. I was aware of them, but I ignored it, right? So some of the signs that I was not growing, some of the signs that, that really problematic things were coming up, I ignored it. And I ignored it because, many of us have been brought up as Black women that we are strong, that we don't let anybody, you know, uh, tell us what to do or try to punk us, right? Or try to run us away from situations. So I fell into that trap, right? So I fell into the trap of no, I'm going to stay here. No, I'm here to advocate for Black children. No, I'm here to advocate. I'm going to fight, 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 right? And so that fight didn't serve me. And I was not able to continue to serve Black children, Black staff, Black parents because of the attack on me. And so I was in denial for a long time about the impact that this psychological harm was having on me because, as a psychologist, I came into the field to help other people. And so it's very hard to deal with the reality that you are in a field to help other people, but you're being harmed and you're being harmed in the workplace. So I was in denial about that for a long time. And so it took a while for me to come to that realization. And it may be hard for you too, to really face that denial. So the denial was that. The denial was also not recognizing the toll that being in that toxic job was having on me. I was going to the hairdresser and she was saying to me, Kamani, what's going on? Your hair is falling out. What's going on? And I was really in denial about, wow, this toxic job is really taking a toll on me. I started having other physical symptoms. So my hair was falling out. I also was having issues with like my nose bleeding, like things like that, difficulty sleeping. And the denial, I think, was hard for me too, that as Black women, we've been taught that no matter what we go through, we keep going, right? We keep going and we have things to do. We can't let, things kind of slow us down. But what I was going through at the time, in my own life was that I was going through one of the worst periods of my life when my son was going through bullying at a school and I ended up suing the school. That's a whole nother story. I'm going to do videos about that too, right? So it was the worst time of my life and dealing with that, trying to support my family, and at the same time, I was going through this issue. And so when we have other things going on in our lives, we just keep going, right? We keep focusing, we keep doing what we got to do, right? But I just want to say to us that how do we survive is that we need to stop and pause and recognize sometimes when it's time to leave. And that might be very hard. And I want to just be very transparent with you that it wasn't easy for me to leave no matter what I was going through, no matter how unhappy I was, no matter how much psychological harm I was incurring, it wasn't easy to leave. And it took me at least 3 years to leave. Okay. And again, I want to be transparent with you because I don't want any Black woman in a toxic job feeling that they have to leave immediately or feeling that they are not able to take their time and really process it, right? So I say to any Black woman, I don't want you to feel the need to immediately leave unless you are experiencing significant harm to you physically, psychologically, spiritually, okay? So it is a journey in terms of leaving. I did a lot of exit planning. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. So how do you survive? Part of surviving is recognizing that you're being harmed, recognizing that you cannot heal in the same environment that harmed you, and starting that grieving process. Okay. So I went over denial. Okay. So the denial of what was happening to me, the denial of that the experience was happening, but the denial also about I was being harmed, right? Because I was so determined to keep fighting, but recognizing that the longer I was there, the more it was harming me. So my hope for you as you're listening to this video, that you take a moment and pause if you're in a toxic work environment and really start reflecting on your own healing and start going through the grief process. So the grief process and processing that, that's one of the things that I address in my Black Women Healing from Toxic Jobs program, coaching program. If you want more information about that, I will put that in the description section. So as I said, again, I'm going to come on for just little bits of time to go over the 5 stages of grief. So I just went over denial, okay? So I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to take a moment to regroup and pause, right, from my own healing. And part of the denial, too, that I kind of alluded to in my other videos of all skin folk and kinfolk, is that sometimes the betrayal can come from other women, other Black women, and that could be very harmful. And, part of my denial, too, was that I did not listen to what other people were telling me about other Black women who were causing me harm because that was so harmful for me to believe that, right? And I think that, because I have such a strong belief and knowing, and experiencing a positive Black sisterhood, I'm a alum of Spelman College, that I believe so much in that. So when other women were coming to me and were saying, well, this person is not your friend, this person's not looking out for you, I was in denial about that. Okay. So my hope is that you are not in denial or that you start coming to the realization about certain things and processing that denial. Okay. So again, I'm going to pause and take a moment just to regroup for myself, take some deep breaths as I come back and talk about the additional stages of grief, okay, in relation to a toxic job. So healing is possible. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications bell. So this really encourages me to continue having these types of conversations, okay? So I will be back shortly after I kind of regroup to talk about the other stages of grief, okay? So thank you for tuning in.